Michael Savage.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
One egg made one embryo, which made one baby. Today we've improved on all that. Now the egg will divide from 8 to 96 buds, and every bud will grow into a perfectly formed embryo, and every embryo into a mature baby, making 96 human beings grow where only one grew before. Progress.
Today, with the executive order I am about to sign, we will bring the change that so many scientists and researchers, doctors and innovators, patients and loved ones have hoped for and fought for these past 8 years. We will lift the ban on federal funding for promising embryonic stem cell research.
That's the abortion racketeers behind King Obama. Now, as Robert P. George and Eric Cohn have written in the Wall Street Journal, the president has politicized stem cell research. The announcement, they say, was classic Obama, advancing radical policies while seeming calm and moderate, and preaching the gospel of civility while accusing those who disagree with the policies of being divisive and even politicizing science. Fact of the matter is, Obama has set us down a road that you will regret in the future, I can guarantee you. This policy of George Bush, which was a Solomon-esque-like policy that Bush had, which did justice to both the promise of stem cell science and the demands of ethics. You see, George Bush's policy was pretty clear. It allowed the government to fund research on existing embryonic stem cell lines where the embryos in question had already been destroyed, but it would not fund or incentivize the ongoing destruction of new human embryos. And of course, this policy was attacked by advocates of embryo-killing research. They said that the religious right, the anti-science villains on the religious right, were the evil ones. The fact of the matter is Bush's policy was one of moderation. It certainly didn't ban new embryo-destructive research, but it did not fund new embryo-destructive research. Now, let me pull back here. We covered this yesterday, but the reason I'm doing it in part today is because of the overwhelming response that I have gotten over the last 24 hours. From truck drivers to corporate executives, I have had people say to me, Michael, that was your finest hour. Now, I don't know what a finest hour means. I know that I was doing some important work yesterday, trying to make even the liberals amongst you comprehend where this will lead. Not where it might lead, but where it will lead, which is why I've been playing you radio clips from a 1950s era Brave New World from the CBS radio hour. We are moving away from human reproduction. We are moving into government control of the production of human beings. As you well know, Obama is a dictator in the making. He's an embryonic dictator. And this embryo of a dictator, if he is not stopped, if this embryo of a dictator is not resisted, if there is no resistance to this embryonic dictator that we have, my friends, anything is possible. No one man should be permitted to have passed 17 executive orders in less than 2 months. And yet that has happened right in front of your eyes. And so this most dangerous radical college professor has bypassed Congress, bypassed the people. He's telling you that you wanted the Brave New World when nobody asked you what you wanted. But the fact of the matter is that Obama's policy is not moderate at all. It is not a moderate policy. According to the article in today's Wall Street Journal, it will promote a whole new industry of creating and destroying embryos. It will include the creation of human embryos by cloning for research in which they are destroyed. And it forces American taxpayers like you who see the deliberate taking of human life in the embryonic stage as unjust to be complicit in this murder. Obama made a big point in his speech of claiming to bring integrity back to science policy. And he said he wanted to remove the previous administration's ideological agenda from scientific decision-making. I agree with the authors that this claim of taking science out of politics is both false and misguided. First of all, the Obama policy itself is radical leftist and political. It is red meat to his Bush-bashing, Bush-hating, Republican-hating base, and yet pays no more than lip service to the new science, the new breakthroughs in science that we discussed yesterday, that makes possible the production of cells that are biologically equivalent to embryonic stem cells without the need to kill or create human embryos. In other words, from adults. And I want to pause here again for those of you who don't have science background. It's okay, you don't need to. What are we talking about when we say stem cell research? What is a stem? Think of a stem on a tree. From a stem grows a branch. From a branch grows the leaf and the fruit. It's the same with human cells. You start with a stem cell, in essence, really an embryonic cell. It's not really an embryonic cell, it's just an early cell. And from, let's say you have nerve damage, and you want to repair this nerve damage. What you would try to do is get a stem cell and encourage it through scientific methods to grow additional cells, additional nerve cells, which then can be used to restore your damaged nervous system area, okay? But you don't need to do this from embryos. This can be done from adult cells. Obama knows this, yet Obama is a deceptive pretender. Obama is a radical Marxist by every definition. Now, I've been calling him a neo-Marxist for about 60 days because I've seen what he's been doing. I won't be the last. I'm only going to be the first, as usual, in defining what this president is. I am always ahead of the curve. I am warning you that you're being dragged down an unbrave new world and you'll regret it in the future. The fact of the matter is, Obama revoked not only the Bush restrictions on embryo killing research funding, but he also revoked the 2007 executive order that encourages the NIH to explore non-embryo destructive sources of stem cells. You understand that? In other words, it was a very political claim. And getting to that point, his claim about taking politics out of science is not only a lie, but it's anti-democratic. You see, the question of whether to destroy human embryos for research purpose is not really a scientific question, is it? It is a moral and civic question about the limits of science, the uses of science, the ambitions of science. And as I described yesterday, we understand what happens when science is not controlled by a government, and that can lead to a human experimentation. Mengele, the mad Nazi doctor, used living Jews to experiment upon. The real issue here is how we're going to treat members of the human family at the very dawn of life. Are there not alternative paths to medical progress that respect human dignity? Of course there are. You understand this? And so, ladies and gentlemen of the savage nation, I believe in democracy. But if we want to destroy and mistreat the most vulnerable human lives, we are doing so at our own moral peril. And for Obama to say that we are taking politics out of science is a very, very sad statement indeed. Now, this stem cell debate is going to continue, not only on this show, but throughout America. It has not been continued on CNN. It has not been continued on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, more snotty nonsense by chicks. It's a done deal to these anti-democratic forces of the media. And they don't even understand what they have done here. They have no idea. Father, forgive them, for they do not know how they have sinned. They have no idea how they have sinned. But I have a moral obligation on this radio show, don't I, to use the gift not only of my minor, fleeting fame and importance in radio and in thinking in America. And I repeat, minor, fleeting fame, because that is what God has given me. Minor, fleeting fame is not to be used for my own aggrandizement, but to do God's will and God's work on this earth. You don't have to believe me whether I'm sincere or not. It doesn't matter whether you do or not. I don't care whether you think of the most cynical manipulator on earth. It doesn't matter to me. I go to sleep at night, and I sleep soundly. I'm not a perfect person. I'm far from it. I'm as flawed as the next man, if not more so. However, when it comes to this radio show is the most sacred part of my life. I know that this accident called talk radio, meaning my entering talk radio 15 years ago, this accident that saved my professional life From the fires of unemployment, the fires of hell itself, caused by the liberal social engineers who wanted to put me on the dustbin of history,